takes away the life from all the women of the town, because even though they are strong women, they are independent women, because they are left to themselves and they have to run the family. They are almost matriarchs, but they live in eternal insecurity. When they go down to the port to say goodbye to their men, they don't really know whether this goodbye is a rehearsal for death, because experience tells them that a lot of these men will never come back. They have all lost brothers, sons, fathers, the occasional husband. In Marstal back then in Denmark was called the town of the widows. It was so obvious. And she wants to liberate the women from this life of anxious waiting, of loneliness, and she wants to give them back a proper family life. She wants the husbands back in town. And so through her marriage with Albert, well, they don't get married, but she inherits his fortune, which turns out to be much bigger than anybody had ever known. And so she acquires the means to do something very strange. She simply wants to destroy Marstal as a seafaring town, so she buys more and more of the shipping companies, more and more of the ships, not to make them sail on the 7 oceans, but to simply see to it that they never sail again, to create unemployment so that the men will find other occupations. And this, of course, is a hopeless thing. She is, in a way, doing the right thing in her own idealistic way, but she's doing it in the wrong place and at the wrong time. She's even got visions of a kind of master that has a remarkable likeness to today, present day's Danish welfare society. But the time it's premature. That cannot be done. And so she ends up creating the opposite of what she wants. Marstal, as a seafaring town, dies, but doesn't mean that she can wrestle the men away from the sea. They just go sailing on other ships, and that means they never return. And when the Second World War comes, you have to imagine a town of 3,000 inhabitants where around, maybe there's no statistics for it, but around maybe 500 grown-up men were away for 5 years and nobody knew whether they would ever come back. And of course, this is real life, but I somehow try to recreate that situation in the novel with her as the driving force.
And of course, one of the prices she pays is that she's dislocated from her own son.
Yes, because he somehow feels that she wants to take she forbids him to become a sailor, because she doesn't want him to repeat the destiny, the fatal destiny of his father. And so they become estranged. There is a total rupture between them. She declares him dead. And then, of course, to her, and later regrets it, but there's a very, very tragic relationship between them. And so she becomes an increasingly isolated and tragic figure.
I think you can remind English readers too about some aspects of D.H. Lawrence and the determination of the mothers not to let their sons go down the mines, which both in one sense was protecting them, but at the same time was also emasculating them. So it's a very, very
it's the same conflict.
Well, I think that, well, I'm sure there are people who, the ambassador said 8 o'clock was sort of curfew time. So, would anyone like to ask Carsten some questions? Yes.